A massive unexplored freshwater lake hidden under layers of Antarctic ice, an island that looks like an alien world, and an area of North Carolina where compasses malfunction and plants can't grow, known as the Devil's Stomping Ground. These are mysterious locations that might just prove we're living in a simulation. Lake Vostok is a weird one. It's this massive freshwater lake that's been trapped beneath Antarctica's ice for millions of years. Scientists first found it in the 70s, but it's believed to have been sealed off by 3 kilometers or about 2 miles of ice for around 15 million years. At one point, Lake Vostok was pretty much a regular lake on the surface of Antarctica, and it would rise and fall with the tides just like any other body of water. But now, it's deep beneath the ice with a crazy amount of pressure, about 5,150 pounds per square inch, just sitting there in total darkness. Even though it's buried under all that ice, scientists are convinced that there's life down there. They think organisms have been evolving in complete isolation, untouched by the outside world for all of this time. How they're still thriving in that dark, high-pressure environment is a mystery, and while it'd be wild to see what the lake would have looked like in the past, I'm also dying to know what kind of weird life forms could be living down there right now. Socotra Island is one of the strangest places on Earth. It's found off the coast of Yemen, and it doesn't look like any place on the planet. The island is very remote, and because of that, it's home to some very strange stuff. About a third of its plant life can't be found anywhere else in the world. One of the most bizarre plants is the dragon's blood tree. It's got these branches that look upside down, kind of like a tree, but growing with its roots sticking out of the ground and at the top. These trees have been used for medicinal purposes, dyeing fabric, making incense, and staining wood. And then there's the island's bottle tree, which has a thick trunk that stores water to survive the harsh conditions. You'll also find huge limestone caves here filled with bats, and you'll also find messages carved into the walls by sailors from 1 to 6 CE. The people who live here are also pretty unique, with genetic traits that can't be found anywhere else on the planet. In North Carolina, there is a spot known as the Devil's Stomping Ground. It's this barren 40-foot wide circle in the middle of the woods, and a lot of very weird stuff is said to go on here. The legend goes that the devil himself stomps around in this circle every night before heading off to do his evil deeds. The ground inside the circle is weirdly barren. There's no plants. No plants will grow there, and anything left inside the circle during the day will mysteriously be thrown out by the next morning. People have tried to spend the night in the circle as well, but many say it feels off. Scientists aren't sure what's going on, but there's been some speculation about the soil's copper or salt content causing the plants to die, but testing hasn't really given any clear answers here. What's also incredibly strange is that compasses seem to go haywire when you're standing in the circle. There's a noticeable magnetic interference. If you look at maps from the 1700s, you'll see an island called Bermeja off the coast of Mexico. It was shown as a key piece of land for Mexico's territorial claims, especially when it came to oil drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. Well, look at a map today, and you won't be able to find the place. The island just doesn't seem to exist anymore. In 2009, a study by the National Autonomous University of Mexico tried to find it using everything from aerial reconnaissance to underwater sensors, but they couldn't locate the island anywhere. It was supposed to be about 55 nautical miles outside Mexico's territorial waters, which would have given them a big chunk of extra oil-rich land, but it wasn't there. Your first thought is that the island was probably just swallowed up by the sea, but others believe the island's disappearance might have been something more intentional, like maybe it was bombed by the US to limit Mexico's claims on the Gulf. There are all kinds of conspiracy theories surrounding it, but till this day, we still don't know for sure. Minnesota is home to one of the most bizarre waterfalls in the United States, Devil's Kettle Falls. The Brule River splits into 2 channels, one of which continues on as a regular waterfall, but the other one, well, the second stream disappears into this giant pothole known as the Devil's Kettle, and no one knows where the water goes. It just vanishes without a trace. Some say it's bottomless, and that the water drops all the way down into hell, and while it's a fun theory, scientists, of course, don't think that. They think the water might actually flow underground, rejoining the Brule River a little further downstream, but it's impossible to see with the naked eye. The thing is, no one's been able to prove where that water actually goes, and after decades of research, the Devil's Kettle is still just a weird little oddity we don't fully understand, which obviously means our entire reality may be just a simulation, of course. Urkhammer is the small town in Iowa, which supposedly vanished into thin air in 1928. The weirdness started when a guy posted about it online in 2015, saying that his mom got an email with a history of the town. Turns out it was a normal little town back in the day, but by the time aerial photos were taken in 1928, there was nothing but empty fields where Urkhammer used to be. Now at first it seemed like a weird coincidence, but things only got stranger. There's a story about a tourist who drove through, got his gas topped off at the local station, then found his tank empty just a couple miles later. He was very confused but figured there was probably something wrong with his car. Anyway, he'd have to turn around and walk back to the town for help. But no matter how far he walked back, the town never got any closer. Eventually, the man was picked up by another driver along the road, but was so disturbed by what had happened that he eventually ended up in a sanitarium. Another strange thing happened when two men from Illinois tried to buy supplies in the town. They couldn't walk up the steps of the general store because their feet just kept passing through them, like the steps weren't even there. Others tried and the same thing happened. Not long after, the local police arrived to investigate, only to find their hands passed through the doors. It was like the town was just this one big mirage, and eventually there was no sign of the town at all. The Gurdon Light in Arkansas has been a local mystery for decades. It's one of those things you can't really explain no matter how hard you try. It's a glowing light, usually white, blue, or sometimes orange, that floats near the railroad tracks in Gurdon. Unlike other mysterious lights, this one's been seen by so many people that's become a part of the town's history. The light shows up pretty regularly as well, and some folks have even seen it so often it's just become another odd feature of the landscape. There are a couple of theories behind it. Some say it's the ghost of a railroad worker who was decapitated by a train, and his lantern still floating around as he looks for his head. Another version of the tale goes that a railroad foreman was killed by one of his workers, and again his spirit still lurks around the tracks with his lantern, creating the spooky light. Leaving aside ghosts though, there's a theory that the light could be caused by underground quartz crystals, creating some sort of electrical reaction. But whatever the cause, the Gurdon Light makes for one of the strangest mysteries in the state, along with how Arkansas is spelled. Still don't get that. The Bermuda Triangle, similar to the Bermuda Triangle, is a stretch of land that just seems to suck planes out of the sky. It's found close to Area 51, and over 2,000 planes have gone missing in the region, a lot of them without a trace. One of the most famous disappearances is that of billionaire pilot Steve Fawcett in 2007. He was a super experienced pilot, but his plane vanished without a word, and it took a whole year to find the wreckage. Another story involves a military pilot who crashed in 1957, survived for nearly 2 months, and then appeared out of nowhere in a national park. Theories range from natural stuff like mountain waves messing with the planes to wilder ideas like aliens. The 2011 tsunami in Japan was one of the most devastating natural disasters ever, leaving nearly 16,000 people dead and over 2,500 missing. But what came after was stranger. In the months and years that have followed the disaster, there have been reports of ghost sightings. People would see spirits wandering the streets, asking for directions or looking for their lost homes. Some taxi drivers would also report picking up ghost passengers, people who seemed completely normal at first, but would then vanish out of the back seat before ever arriving at their destination. There were also stories of people being possessed by these lost souls, leading Buddhist monks stepping up to perform hundreds of exorcisms. Now, the Bermuda Triangle. It is the OG of mysterious patches of the planet. It's that stretch of ocean between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico where planes and ships seem to disappear without a trace. There are all kinds of stories, some of ships vanishing with no sign, others of pilots flying into it and just losing contact. Theories for the disappearances range from the scientific, like massive underwater gas bubbles or magnetic anomalies messing with instruments, pure coincidence, to the more outlandish, like alien abductions, time warps, or in this case, glitches in the Matrix that is our reality. One of the most famous cases is the disappearance of Flight 19, a group of 5 US Navy bombers that went missing in 1945 during a training mission. A rescue plane sent after them also disappeared. Despite all the theories and investigations, no one has been able to come up with a solid answer for why these disappearances happen, and that's why the Bermuda Triangle has to be at the top of this list. With all that said, I have been your host, James, and I will catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next video.